Well, that was certainly an eventful way to welcome back the Flash. Out of time was a bit disappointing overall. Those last 15 minutes or so really made up for it with several key developments and a hefty dose of tension to spice things up. I'll start off with what was easily the weakest element of this episode, the love quadrangle between Barry, Iris, Linda, and Eddie. The show has benefited from a small but reoccurring focus on Barry's troubled romantic life and his unrequited love for Iris. It's only when that element becomes too heavy a focus that the show begins to suffer, and such was the case tonight. Linda wasn't given much to do but play the jilted lover as Iris suddenly decided, hey, maybe I do kind of have a thing for my adopted brother after all. I know Iris is the least favorite character on the show for a lot of fans. I don't dislike her, but it is annoying how often the character seems to make a 180 each week in regards to her relationship with Barry. The idea that she would suddenly throw away her life with Eddie and profess her love for Barry seemed a little far-fetched. That big kiss needed more time to feel truly earned. I will say, though, that the scene of Barry revealing himself to Iris right before dashing off to deal with the tidal wave was a solid moment. Iris was inevitably going to find out one way or another, but at least he was able to reveal himself straight to her face. And it addressed a nagging question. Why didn't Barry throw caution to the wind and race to save Joe as soon as Mardon called Iris? At least we know he won't put maintaining his secret over the safety of his loved ones. The question now is whether this reveal will put a damper on his blossoming romance with Iris. Will this be your excuse to make yet another 180 with Barry? Speaking of Mardon, this episode introduced the brother of the original Weather Wizard, as Liam McIntyre made his debut. Clive Mardon wasn't especially well utilized in the pilot. He allowed for a cool action scene when he formed a tornado, but beyond that, the character didn't have much going for him. Unfortunately, the elder Mardon was a whole lot better utilized this time. Mardon had the right foundation. He had the personal vendetta against Joe, thereby giving Barry a personal stake of his own in this latest metahuman clash. The script never worked to develop Mardon beyond this initial setup. He only appeared in a handful of scenes and generally came across as a one-note character. Nor did his presence give Joe the starring role I was hoping for. At the very least, the new Weather Wizard proved as adept as the old at bringing some added spectacle to the show. Mardon storming the police station was a memorable scene. The fact that the writers were able to work in Weather Wizard Thawne from the comics, albeit as a weapon used against him, was a nice touch. And that tidal wave-fueled finale was pretty darn cool as well. All that being said, the scenes focused on Dr. Wells were the real heart of this episode. Wells is, in many ways, the most intriguing character on this show, thanks both to what we do know about him and what we don't. This episode tapped into that compelling mystery as multiple characters began to suspect Wells isn't all he appears. This especially allowed Cisco to shine. Carlos Valdez and Tom Cavanaugh did a great job of highlighting the father-son bond between the two characters, which made it all the more heartbreaking when Cisco discovered the truth about his mentor. Moreover, Cisco's frantic investigation played nicely with Barry's race to save Joe, really amping up the overall tension in the final minutes. That led to a big moment of revelations where we learned far more about Wells than I was expecting this far from the season finale. Among other things, we now know that Wells is trapped in the past against his will and sees Barry less as a friend and more as a tool to be harnessed. And we know that his real name is Eobard Thawne. So much for the idea that Eddie is the show's version of Eobard. Definitely a strong payoff to the episode's Wells buildup. That said, I do hope there's still more to Wells Thawne's motivations than he let on here. Part of what makes the character so compelling is that he comes across as genuinely well-meaning despite his sinister actions. There's a sense that he cares for Barry and wants him to be a better hero. I don't particularly want Wells to devolve into just another villain for Barry. The ending of this episode also leaves plenty of food for thought. Barry appears to have stranded himself a day or two in the past, leaving the outcome of his battle with Mardon and Cisco's fateful meeting with Wells very much in question. Where does the show go from here? Will we see these events play out again next episode from a new angle? Will this somehow allow the cat back into the bag as far as Wells unmasking, Cisco's death, and Iris's confession? It would be disappointing if the show delivered so many big twists one week only to immediately undo them the next. That said, Cisco needs to stick around, whether that involves undoing his death or having him return as the vibration-powered hero vibe. Out of Time was an uneven episode at best. The romantic subplot took time away from the more compelling material, and this Weather Wizard didn't fare much better than the first when it came to depth or characterization. However, the Wells conspiracy was pure gold, and their overall payoff in the climax made the weaker story elements worth waiting through. Let's just hope the surprise ending will allow the series to blaze new ground, rather than simply wiping away this episode's big developments. Now, I want to hear your thoughts on this episode in the comment section below, so go ahead and leave us a comment. What did you think about this episode? What do you think about the storyline so far? And of course, if you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/cinemagold. And with that, thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you in our next episode.